Well, hi everybody, and welcome back to the Ultimate Fashion History's 20th Century Style Icon series. This time around, we're swinging back to the early 70s with the absolutely gorgeous David Cassidy. David Cassidy is one of those characters who really needs no introduction. The son of Jack Cassidy and Evelyn Ward, the half-brother to Sean Cassidy and Patrick Cassidy, and of course, the stepson to Shirley Jones. We first met David Cassidy, of course, playing Keith, the cute singing son in the TV show The Partridge Family. Now listen, I'm not going to pretend that I was old enough to really be caught up in Cassidy fever in the early 1970s. I was 5 or 6, so I was actually not listening to David Cassidy. I was probably listening to, I don't know, the soundtrack to The Jungle Book or something. But I definitely watched The Partridge Family, and I thought Danny was the cutest because he was more age appropriate. As an older lady, I realize now just how fantastic David Cassidy was. He was so attractive, so charismatic, so natural, and of course, such a marvelous singer. I honestly think that David Cassidy is one of the most underrated vocalists of the 20th century. His voice is beautiful. You just have to hear one note and you know it's David Cassidy. It is so distinctive, husky and sexy and gorgeous. It's no wonder that his role as Keith Partridge was soon parlayed into a career as a pop idol, with many albums and hits. Sadly, I don't think he was ever taken as seriously as a singer as he should have been, simply because this was the early 70s and he fell into teen idol territory, and you know what that's like. But a teen idol he was. My goodness, look at the stadium full of David Cassidy fans. For those of you who are genuinely too young to remember that David Cassidy was ever a huge star, I have to remind you what a huge star he was. The world had Cassidy fever. He was everywhere, on the cover of every teen magazine, but also on the cover of Life magazine. He even had his own magazine. David Cassidy was huge. But we're here today to talk about David as a 20th century style icon. And his contribution to 20th century male fashion cannot be overstated, because in the early to mid 1970s, David Cassidy did something remarkable. He made long hair on young men acceptable. As we know, the late 60s and early 70s was the era of long hair on young men, but people didn't like it. It was perceived as scruffy. It was perceived as hippie-ish or dirty. You can imagine how many arguments went down in suburban households with mums trying to get their teenage sons to cut their hair. Even on rock stars like John Lennon, it was seen as subversive, anti-establishment. The mainstream didn't like long hair on men until David Cassidy came along with the shag. The shag haircut. The difference between long hippie hair or long surfer hair and David Cassidy's long hair is that his was coiffed. This made all the difference. This layered shag haircut, slightly center-parted with heavy bangs, became one of the key and signature haircuts for men in the early to mid 1970s because it changed the long hippie hair into something pulled together. And I really think for a lot of suburban mums out there who were tearing their own hair out, looking at their scruffy sons with their shoulder-length locks, they probably thought, well, hang on. If Shirley Jones, somebody they had grown up with, somebody of their generation, who was known for being rather squeaky clean, even though she's a lot of fun in real life, evidently, if her stepson is allowed long hair, then my son, he could be allowed long hair too, as long as he has hair like David Cassidy's, because it looks so neat. And when it comes to the 70s shag cut, David Cassidy really was the OG. If you go to Google and you type in 70s shag haircut men, hit images, David Cassidy's are the first to come up. He owned this haircut. Nobody ever wore it better. After the height of Cassidy mania in the early to mid-70s, David continued recording and performing, most notably on Broadway in the musical Blood Brothers, where he actually pulled off a very good Liverpool accent, a Scouse accent, which is rather hard to do for even an English person. He did it very well. And in Blood Brothers, he starred with another Ultimate Fashion History 20th Century Style icon, Petula Clark. So there's a nice cultural connection for you. Earlier this year, in 2017, sadly, video started circulating of David Cassidy performing and acting very strange on stage. Very erratic, forgetting his lyrics, seeming confused and a bit bewildered. And then he came out a few weeks ago with the very sad news that he is suffering from early onset dementia. He was on Dr. Phil discussing his illness, and the reason he came out to discuss this is that he wanted to raise awareness of the illness of dementia, of Alzheimer's, and to sort of demystify it, and also to reassure his fans that no, he's okay, but he is going through this really terrible experience. And I think this is incredibly brave. When one has dementia, obviously there are chunks of the day when one is confused and terrified. And so to be in the public, in the spotlight, going on Dr. Phil, it's really a very brave thing to do. And so I think this really speaks to the kind of man that David Cassidy is, to his integrity, and I know that we all wish him loads of luck. Well, although this episode of 20th Century Style Icons didn't perhaps end on the happiest note, I still hope you enjoyed jumping in my fashion time machine with me. You can contact me through my website, amandahalley.com. Join our Facebook group, The Ultimate Fashion History on Facebook. We have a lot of fun over there. I'm back every week with more videos, so just click the little circle to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye for now.